All right, let's dive right in. You know the story. A divine warning, a gigantic boat, pairs of animals, and a flood that drowns the entire world. Most of us know some version of it, and it feels like this ancient, singular story. But what if it's not? What if I told you it's one of the most universal stories humanity has ever told? I mean, think about it. How did all these societies with zero contact, we're talking different continents, different millennia, all land on this incredibly specific story? A great flood sent to just wipe the slate clean. Well, the answer is way more interesting than you might think. You see, the story we all know, it doesn't actually start with Noah. One of the oldest versions we've ever found comes from ancient Mesopotamia, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where a man named Utnapishtim is warned by a god to build a massive ship. Now, travel thousands of miles away to India. In ancient Hindu texts, there's the story of a man named Manu. And guess what? He's warned of a coming flood by a divine fish and builds a boat to survive. Sound familiar? The ancient Greeks? Yep, they had their own version too. In their myth, Deucalion and his wife Pyrrha are the only survivors of a flood that Zeus sends to destroy humanity, and they're the ones who have to repopulate the earth. And it just keeps going. This narrative pops up all over the world, even in tons of indigenous traditions across the Americas, all of them telling of great waters sent to wash away a previous age. So what's going on? What's the common thread here? It's so easy to assume it must be a single, real event. But the real answer isn't about history. It's all about psychology. The analysis we're going to walk through today suggests a really radical idea. It says that the central problem these myths are trying to solve, it's not water. It is collapse. See, these aren't just stories about floods, they are stories about civilizational ruin. They are humanity's attempt to make sense of watching your entire world end, whether that's from a famine, a war, or, yeah, even a catastrophic local flood. And this is the core function of these stories. They act as what you might call a narrative reset mechanism. Basically, they take a disaster that feels totally random and meaningless, and they transform it into a story with a moral. The world didn't end by accident. It ended for a reason. And reframing it that way is crucial, because it makes a fresh start not just possible, but necessary. What's absolutely incredible is that these stories, even though they come from all over the place, all follow a strikingly similar formula. It's like they're built from the same 4 key ingredients. Okay, let's break this formula down. First, you need destruction, some huge event that just wipes out the world. Second, you have survival. But it's selective, right? Only a chosen few get to be saved. Third, there has to be a justification. A moral or cosmic reason is given for why this all had to happen. And finally, number 4, you get renewal. The survivors go on to establish a brand new world order. This 4-part structure is the engine that drives the story, everywhere it's told. Let's look a little closer at that second ingredient, selective survival, with the 2 most famous examples. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim is chosen by one of the gods, Ea, pretty much on a whim, just to preserve life. But in Genesis, Noah is chosen specifically for his moral character because he is righteous. You can already see how just tweaking this one element can create a very different kind of story. And that little tweak, that's the key. Because the formula isn't static, it evolves. Let's really dig into this by comparing that Mesopotamian prototype with the biblical story it inspired. So this is absolutely crucial to get. The story of Noah's Ark didn't just appear out of thin air. The biblical authors, they knew the Mesopotamian stories. They were popular. So they took that existing narrative and they fundamentally reworked its meaning to fit their unique understanding of God and morality. This table makes the change crystal clear. Just look at the reason for flood. In Gilgamesh, the gods are just annoyed because humans are being too noisy. It's impulsive, almost petty. But in Genesis, the reason is profound. Humanity is morally corrupt. This one change completely flips the moral of the story. It shifts from divine power is unpredictable and kind of random to your ethical conduct actually matters. You know, this process actually has a name. The story has been re-ethicized, and it's a brilliant move. Instead of throwing out the old, familiar story that everyone knows, you just pour new meaning into it. This is how traditions evolve, not usually by total replacement, but by reinterpretation. Okay, so we've got the formula and we've seen how it can be adapted, but that still leaves one huge question. Why this story? Why does this specific narrative structure have such incredible staying power all throughout human history? Now, the most common theory you hear is that all these myths are just a distant memory of one single real global flood. But honestly, that explanation just doesn't really hold up. The myths themselves have way too many contradictions, the geological record doesn't support it, and the story shows up in places that would have been completely unaffected. The answer isn't in history, it's in psychology. And this, right here, this is the absolute key to understanding all of this. Myths aren't failed history or some kind of primitive science. Their job isn't to record exactly what happened. Their job is to preserve meaning. That is their whole purpose. And for that job, a flood is the perfect metaphor, right? Water is both destructive and life-giving. It washes everything away, erasing all the failures of the past. It offers the ultimate do-over. A flood literally wipes the slate clean, creating a blank page where a new story can be written. So, when you put it all together, this one universal story isn't just a story. It's a powerful psychological tool that performs three crucial jobs for any society that tells it. First, it takes a terrifying, chaotic disaster and turns it into a structured lesson about morality. Second, it turns the memory of that collapse into an obligation, a duty to remember what went wrong so it doesn't happen again. And third, it makes survival itself a profound responsibility. The survivors aren't just lucky, they were chosen to build a better world. So the real question for us today is this: what are our modern flood myths? When our world feels like it's collapsing, what are the stories we're telling ourselves to wipe the slate clean and start again?